Bienvenidos, buenas noches. I'm Jennifer Rabb and have the extraordinary privilege of being Presidente to Hunter College, home of El Centro, and soon to be introducing the real Presidente. I am so happy and honored that Hunter College could host the Borough President's Hispanic Heritage Celebration. And Mark, we saved the best to last. And of course, with our Borough President, this is a substantive conversation honoring the extraordinary research centers at CUNY that focus on Hispanic culture and scholarship. So I want to give a shout out to my friend Ramona Hernandez, who is the head of the Dominican Institute at City College, yay. And newer to our community and very exciting is Juan de la Cruz and Jose Higuera Lopez from the Mexican Studies at Lehman College. And then we really have to give it up for our first Latina, our first woman head of El Centro, Dr. Yarma Bonilla at Hunter College. And I know, too, as the Borough President was just saying, and our extraordinary friend who we have in the House, our local state senator who does so much for CUNY, Senator Serrano, we're so grateful, always. I know at Hunter, a third of our students are from Latino heritage, and that is mirrored all through the CUNY system. And so first I do want to say to all of you, our hearts and thoughts are with you from the impact of Fiona. I know El Centro and I know all the other institutes are committed to working together to support what we can do, both to address this terrible crisis, but also to think about how do we finally have long-term solutions. So how wonderful today that we are going to be hearing from the extraordinary Latino scholars that we are so blessed to have at the CUNY system. Mark, I'm so happy that you're honoring great citizens like Damaris Reyes and Alana Cantillo. And it's so great to have our friends from the Hispanic Federation with us. So we close out Hispanic Heritage Month by also making a commitment to support this extraordinary community through scholarship, applied research, thinking about ways to improve communities in our city and to work together to have a more equitable and just and effective New York. And with those goals, we have two extraordinary politicians, as I said, with us today. You'll hear soon from Senator Serrano, but it is one of my great honors to host and to welcome someone who is just an extraordinary civic leader. I've been very privileged to know Mark Levine as a leader in the education world when we worked together at a nonprofit. I've watched his leadership in the city council where he continually made a difference, listening to voices, taking action, and bringing improvement to communities in Upper Manhattan, but really throughout the city. And so how lucky we are in the Borough of Manhattan to elect a borough president who everybody knows cares. This is a tireless advocate. This is somebody who doesn't just talk the talk, but he walks the walk. His love and his care for his communities is legendary. And I end with not only is he completely bilingual, but he is totally bicultural. Because the day after he called to ask if we would host Hispanic Heritage Month at Hunter, I saw him at Temple celebrating Rosh Hashanah. So I said, if this is not New York in one borough president, what is? So thank you all for being with us. As I said, today is a commitment to continue to focus on our extraordinary Hispanic heritage, to commit to our Latino communities through El Centro and all of the research centers at CUNY, and to welcome one of the great political leaders and public servants. Mark, the Hunter motto is Mihi Korag Vituri, the care of the future is mine. You exemplify that motto, and every time you're with us, we are honored. Please join me in welcoming Borough President Levine.
Sadly, I don't speak Latin, but that sounds like a great motto. Thank you, President Rabb, for your leadership and for your partnership with me personally and with our office. You're just an incredible asset for us, and hosting us tonight in this beautiful location is wonderful. Esto se va a hacer bilingüe, ¿qué les parece? Ahora sí. Bueno, feliz mes de la herencia hispana. Felicidades, estamos acabando con lo mejor en este mes que nos queda un par de días nada más. Vamos a ver quién está aquí. Boricuas, por favor, hagan un poco de bulla. Wow. fue mucho más de un poco. Dominicanos, quiqueyanos. Wow, esto es una competencia. Ahora les toca a los mexicanos. Se sentaron todos al lado en cuanto ahí. Ok, a ver, colombianos aquí presentes algunos. No llegó nadie de Colombia, excepto de una de las honradas que parece que llega tarde, que está en hora colombiana parece. Vamos a ver. Ecuatorianos, algunos, dos o tres que están muy asustados. ¿Algún cubano aquí presente? ¿Cómo va a ser? ¿Algún otro país de Latinoamérica? Peruanos, limeños. Y de El Salvador. ¿Dónde más? Hondureño, fuerte vino solito. Hay que tratarlo muy bien. Y los gringos. That's the rest of you guys. Okay, you don't have to make noise. Los judíos, presidente Rab, los judíos estamos presentes, dos o tres nosotros aquí también. I am so happy to spend an evening with you celebrating the heritage of our Hispanic communities in Manhattan and New York City and beyond. Esto no es un cuento corto porque fue en el año 1613 que vino alguien con nombre Juan Rodríguez. ¿Y de dónde vino? ¿De qué isla vino? ¿Alguien sabe? Nació en Santo Domingo. Fue el primer no indígena que vino a dormir, a vivir en esta isla, que fue una vez más Juan Rodríguez, dominicano. Así que ustedes fueron pioneros en esto, pioneros. Ustedes no son ningún novato en Nueva York. Y fue realmente en el siglo XX que empezaron a llegar fuerte. Mediano del siglo XX que llegaron centenares de miles de la isla de Puerto Rico. Si no es así, el centro me corrige, pero más o menos eso es la historia. Que fue un momento difícil para Nueva York, un momento difícil económicamente y mucho más. Yo diría que ustedes los boricuas ayudaron a salvar a Nueva York en los años 50 y 60 y 70. No fue así. Abriendo negocios y bodegas y hicieron Nueva York más fuerte. Y después entramos a otra época difícil, en los 70 y los 80. ¿Y qué pasó? Llegaron los dominicanos, que también hicieron a Nueva York más fuerte. Hicieron Washington Heights el centro nacional de comunidades dominicanos y mucho más allá. Después han llegado muy fuertes los mexicanos en lo que es el barrio y muchas más comunidades. Sin duda, la inmigración hispana ha hecho Nueva York más fuerte. Y hoy día vemos titulares difíciles con un gobernador que es xenofóbico, mandando a venezolanos en guaguas, en autobuses a Nueva York. Yo me alegro que estén llegando, me alegro mucho que otra ola más llega a hacer a Nueva York más fuerte. No importa que los motivos de un gobernador que vamos a hacerlo bien, no le gustan a los inmigrantes hispanos ni nada, pero a los venezolanos, bienvenidos a esta ciudad, sin duda. Yo he conversado con muchos de ellos. Son familiares trabajadores que vinieron a Nueva York a progresar, quieren trabajar, quieren pagar sus impuestos, van a ser excelentes neoyorquinos, al igual que todos los latinos que han llegado a Nueva York. No es así. Si ustedes están de acuerdo y le dan la bienvenida a los venezolanos, por favor, pónganse de acuerdo. Es así. I'm just going to repeat that bit in English because it's really important. We have had wave after wave after wave of Latinos that have come to New York City. Every single wave has made New York City stronger, has enriched the culture, has added to the economic development, has risen to the heights of every sector in academics, that have risen to the heights of professors and leaders in CUNY and in our public schools, in small business, in government, in politics, in medicine, in engineering. Every one of those sectors you now see today, leaders, Latino leaders who are making New York City stronger. And I have no doubt that the next wave will continue with that, as you always have. We have so much to celebrate. But I also want to recognize that this is a very difficult week for all of us who care about our Latino communities, especially in the Caribbean, with Hurricane Fiona, que dio un choque duro a Puerto Rico, a Santo Domingo, a Cuba, and now we have another hurricane, Ida, that's hit Florida, which, other than New York, really is the center of Caribbean life in America. I am very proud that New York City has stepped up. That our mayor went with a delegation to Puerto Rico, to Santo Domingo. They were there Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, bringing aid, as New York City must do. Los vínculos son muy fuertes. No hay ningún boricua ni dominicano que no tenga por lo menos un primo en Nueva York. No es así, sino un hermano. Y eso es importante. Cuando sufren en Santo Domingo, en Puerto Rico o Cuba, nos afecta a nosotros aquí en corazón, en alma, porque ustedes son parte de nuestra familia. So we are going to be there for our friends on the islands coming out of this crisis. And so I want to call up our partners from the Hispanic Federation. Come on up. Last name Paez. Your first name again? Emily Paez. Come on up, Emily. The Hispanic Federation, dale un aplauso, señores, no. What they have done for New York City over the past, ¿cuándo fue que Luis lo fundó?
In 1990.
1990.
Almost 30 years. More than
Okay.
30 years ago.
Okay, cuando tú eres chiquita. What Luis Miranda has done in founding the Hispanic Federation, and so many others have done, is absolutely extraordinary. And actually, hang on, Emily, because I'm a very bad elected official. I didn't do my acknowledgement. So you're not going anywhere. I really hope that Senator Jose Serrano is still here. Yes, he is. Okay. I am so thrilled to call you a friend and partner in government. Please make your way on up. Jose Serrano, senador. Bueno, I'm sorry. Marco Serrano. Jose Marco Serrano, pero we call you Marco. I don't think you're going to find a more decent human being in elective office. It's a very rare commodity. Just a profoundly decent human being, also passionate and committed and hardworking. And I'm really glad that we get to partner in government. I really value our friendship, and I would be honored if you would say a few words. Marco Serrano, Senador, thank you.
Thank you so much, Borough President Mark Levine. Thank you for your leadership over many years. Thank you for helping me with my Spanish.
Oh, please.
It has been such a pleasure to work with you, and I'm very grateful for the work that you continue to do throughout the Borough of Manhattan, in particular in the Latino community, with such diligence, and I really do appreciate it. And thanks to you and your wonderful team, and to CUNY and President Rob for this wonderful space. I remember many, many years ago sitting with President Rob when she was conceptualizing this very building, and I was like, wow, how's she going to pull this together? It just seems so complicated, but she wanted this to be a beacon in this community for discourse, for gathering, for civics and education, and it really has been all of those things for East Harlem and beyond. And to this wonderful audience who's here today to celebrate something that we all celebrate all year round, and that is the importance of the Latino community here in New York City and here in East Harlem, which I have the good fortune of representing, a place with such a long history for wave after wave of Latinos from different parts of Latin America. My mom talks so much about when she first came here from Puerto Rico in the 1950s, living on 101st Street in a tenement, going to PS 109, and just in wonder of how much energy and how much good there was here in East Harlem. So I'm just so grateful to be here. I won't take up any time. I know there's a great program here today, but I wanted to just come by Borough President Levine to say thank you, to show support for this wonderful event, and thanks to all the sponsors as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Marco Serrano. Thank you. I want to acknowledge that we have here del Consulado Mexicano, mi amigo Gerardo Isu, que es encargado de asuntos comunitarios, y trajo la mitad del consulado. Así que si podrían ponerse de pie todos los que son del Consulado Mexicano. Un aplauso, señores. Gracias, gracias. We have otra amiga mía, íntima mía, Jocelyn Manaya, Director of the Uptown Office for the Manhattan District Attorney. Jocelyn, thank you for being here. We have the chair in the community board where we are now, currently present, Community Board 11, Xavier Santiago. Where's Xavier? There he is in the back. Thank you, buddy. We have a good friend and former Assembly member, Frank Diaz. Frank, thank you. And we have representatives, I think, from the Sugar Hill Children's Museum. Is that right? Are you guys here? All right, they're on their way, no doubt. Okay, they're just not very noisy. Okay, there we are. Oh, yo no te vi, Jael. Okay, estaba escondida. And I want to acknowledge the incredible team from my office who helped make tonight possible, including the Director of Events, Mariel de la Cruz. Mariel. Absolute rock star. Absolute rock star. Okay, now I feel bad I made her wait, but it was worth the wait. Emily Pius, would you please come on up to talk to us about your work for the hurricane victims? Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Borough President Levine. It's great to be here amongst, I feel like family, essentially. And of course, we want to make sure we acknowledge everyone who's in the room. That's very important. So good evening y buenas noches. My name is Emily Pius, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs and Civic Engagement with Hispanic Federation. It is a pleasure to be here with you this evening to celebrate the many contributions of our rich culture, Latinx traditions, our ever-changing, ever-growing successes, and the overall beauty of being Hispanic in America and in the city of New York. With a mission to empower and advance the Latino community, Hispanic Federation serves as a vital advocate and lends its voice to ensuring that we have a seat at the table when critical decisions like policies are being done and created for us. Nothing about us without us, as it says. Together, we'll help ensure that our communities have the resources and equitable opportunities to advance our growing successes. So this evening, I have the privilege of providing an update on the critical work and the very essential work that Hispanic Federation is doing over following the Hurricane Fiona and the impact it has left in the island of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, among others. Just when Hispanic Federation was getting ready to celebrate its 5th year in creating the office in Puerto Rico, we have the office, Hispanic Federation in the island of Puerto Rico, following Hurricane Maria. We were hit with a devastated Hurricane Fiona as we were getting ready to celebrate 5 years. Getting ready to celebrate and acknowledge all the successes, but also some of the ongoing challenges that we have still been faced with in the island of Puerto Rico. And while Hurricane Maria was a storm that severely hit the island with heavy winds, Hurricane Fiona unfortunately caused many water damages and a lot of storms, causing flooding, landslides, washing away essential bridges, and that were essentially used for transportation. People are relying on generators for electricity to survive because of the medical equipment that they need. Many of the deaths that actually occurred during Hurricane Maria were associated with an extended period of going out without electricity. So we're trying to prevent this again from happening this time around. While Hurricane Fiona was determined to be a level 1 hurricane, the severe flooding and already an impacted system from Hurricane Maria has shown a tremendous impact in the island of Puerto Rico. In the Dominican Republic, the president has declared 3 of the most eastern provinces and affected heavy rainfall and flash flooding, destroyed homes and essential crops for residents. In an effort to continue assisting these communities and to rise up, Hispanic Federation will encourage everyone to visit our website, www.hispanicfederation.org, as we are gathering essential funding that is needed in order to purchase items like solar panels to continue for electricity. So again, these items will be used for essential generators that, especially for those that are medically compromised individuals, providing supplies to community kitchens. And we are working to install currently actually solar lanterns to illuminate homes that are still without power. Again, I want to thank you all as we celebrate our richness in our culture, but also shed light to one of the importance and the need of our communities over in the island of Puerto Rico and also the Dominican Republic. We're going to continue to monitor and work with local nonprofit organizations in both islands, including the Dominican Republic. And again, I thank you, and I will be here and happy to share my contact information with everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you to Borough President.
Now, if you love the work of the Hispanic Federation and you want to support their relief efforts, there's a QR code in your program which makes it very easy to contribute. So, did you neglect to mention that?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm here for. Excellent. I want to acknowledge that we have here the Manhattan representative on the panel for education policy, Dr. Calera Salas Ramirez. There she is. Thank you. Wonderful to have you here. And we also have Manhattan Borough President appointee to Community Education Council 2, Lupe Hernandez. I think she's here. Is she? On her way? Okay. Well, we're acknowledging her. You can applaud anyhow. She's going to be coming very soon. We're happy about that. I mentioned before, we are currently in Community Board 11. So I would like to ask the chair of Community Board 11, Chair Santiago, if he would like to come up and briefly greet us. Come on up, Xavier.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Are we Latino or not? Buenas noches, sí, es la verdad. Okay, bienvenido a la cuna, right? We are in El Barrio. This is when my dad was raised in the Millbrook houses by my abuelita, a single mom in 1950. Bronx was burning. Spanish Harlem was burning. We've rebuilt. We've come back stronger. And in fact, little known fact is Marco's dad and my dad grew up in the same complex. And we learned that several years ago in that commonality. I'll try to keep my notes as brief as possible because I have to go to another event. The spoken word is the most inexhaustible resource we have on this planet. But the question is, how and what will you use it for? And how will you turn that into action? Community Board 11, we lead the charge grassroots democracy here. We span from 96th Street on the northern aspect, 5th Avenue on the eastern aspect, all the way up to the river, including Randall's Ward Island. Thankfully, to our borough president here, who he and I have had many calls, shall you say. No, we have great vociferous debates and discussions, and that's where it happens. We're 50 volunteer members. I'm proud to have been voted to represent the 50 members of El Barrio, East Harlem, Spanish Harlem. We will continue to advocate. If you want to get involved, I encourage you. You can visit the Borough President's website, but if you want to get involved as a public member, go to cb11m.org. Again, cb11mmanhattan.org, and you can join one of our many committees to be engaged, plugged in. You're here, El Centro, CUNY, right? When you leave, please come back to El Barrio. Spend some time with us, get to know us, and encourage others to do the same. Because as my abuelita me dijo, somos familia. Okay? Good night.
I got to hear stories of Xavier's dad and Marco's dad from back in the day, but this is probably not the forum for that. I think we have representatives from the Peruvian consulate here. Is that right? No la estaba conociendo. Encantado de verla. Un aplauso, señores. La consulada general de Perú. Qué bueno verla. Excellent. Esto es unas Naciones Unidas. I am thrilled now we can move to acknowledging two phenomenal Latino leaders. Damaris Reyes, could you please make your way up? There she is. So, we're borough-wide tonight. So we have a leader all the way from Loisaida who might dispute Xavier's statement that el barrio es la cuna. Quizá Loizada también lo sea. For those of you who don't know, I am thrilled you're going to become acquainted with Damaris Reyes. She is a leader of enormous accomplishment on the Lower East Side. I think her bread and butter is housing organizing. She has spent her entire career fighting for tenants, fighting for the creation of affordable housing, fighting for the families of NYCHA, and is now leading one of the most important housing and tenant advocacy nonprofits in New York City, which is Goals, the good old Lower East Side. They are not afraid of a fight. Damaris is not afraid of a fight, and we love her for it. But her leadership is beyond just straight up tenant advocacy, because unfortunately, events have required her to step up in response to natural disasters as well. Her community was really brutally hit by Superstorm Sandy a decade ago, and she stepped up. And she now leads one of the best grassroots emergency response nonprofits in New York City called LES Ready. So absolutely applaud for LES Ready. So it is my honor to present to you, Damaris, on our Hispanic Heritage Month event, this proclamation on behalf of the people of Manhattan. And I'm not going to read all of it, but just some of the highlights. Damaris, a lifelong resident of the Lower East Side, who serves on many boards. She's served on Community Board 3 in land use. She has served in the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance, the Southside United, HCSC, Los Sures. She's a regular public speaker. As I mentioned, she is chair of LES Ready, and she is the recipient of many awards, including the New York Women's Foundation National Leadership Award, the Jane Jacobs Medal, and the Rockefeller Foundation Award as well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She has too many accomplishments to read, but trust me, it's a lot. Now, therefore, I, Mark Levine, do hereby commend Damaris Reyes for her contribution to the city and proclaim Thursday, September 29th, 2022, Damaris Reyes Appreciation Day in the Borough of Manhattan. Congratulations. Please, if you'd like to say a few words.
I'll say a few words. I'll try to be really brief. So the first thing I want to say is thank you to our Borough President, Mark Levine, who does an excellent job, not only of being a fighter for us, but representing all Latino communities, even though he is Jewish. He speaks better Spanish than I do. We try to, talk a little bit so I can improve. So I'm really honored to be here today and also accept this award. I want to share something with you all. I have, like many of us, our works is recognized, but this is the first time that I have ever received an award for being a Latina. So, I'm not gonna cry, because I always cry. All right, if you know me, you know I always cry. But a couple of quick things, Yes, I work on housing, I work on disaster preparedness, I work on women's issues, I work on senior issues, I work on land use issues. But what I really work on is making sure that there's justice. Justice for our people. Latinos and Hispanics make up about 20% of the United States population. We are a force to be reckoned with. This room is a representation of what that force looks like. Together, all of us, there's nothing that we cannot accomplish. There's nothing that we cannot do for our people. Not just because we are Latinos, but because we are also people who care about people. Latinos are glorious. Our culture is phenomenal. There's so much richness in it. I am proud to be a Puerto Rican woman. I am proud to be from the island of Puerto Rico. But I am proud to be a Hispanic, a Latina. I am proud to share that space with you, with all of you, and people like Mark Levine, who lift this up, because for too long our folks have been oppressed. Our folks have not been given the rights that they deserve, but that is changing. And we owe it to our communities to stand up, to be involved in causes, to do things like Emily, become directors of organizations, to show the power that we have, to show how when we are united, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. So I want to also thank all of the speakers here. I mean, did you see this panel? Mexican, Puerto Rican, Dominican. That is who we are as a city. We are not in competition. We are together. We are united. And please, I beg you, donate. Follow the QR code and donate to these causes, because these islands, they need us, our people need us, and we have to rise to the occasion. Wow. Thank you.
Was that an amazing speech or what? I don't know when Damaris is running for mayor, but I think you got your stump speech down. One more applause for Damaris Reyes, please. Can I get the other proclamation, or is it already here?
You want to use this one?
No. Here we go.
Here we go. Okay, awesome.
Can I ask Alana Cantillo to please come on up? Now, you just met an amazing and proud Boricua. Now you're about to meet an amazing and proud Colombiana. Alana Cantillo is just one of my favorite people. She is a fighter for the rights of people who are too often forgotten in this city. We worked together in the New York City Council when she was the incredible executive director of the Progressive Caucus at a time when we passed consequential legislation, in part because of her leadership. She is now the, is it the associate director? Vice president of advocacy at the New York Immigration Coalition. And this is a group which has been important to the city for years, but at this exact moment, they are stepping up in an incredibly inspiring way to support the migrants who are arriving from the buses from Texas, venezolanos, colombianos, y muchos más países. They have been fierce and fearless in fighting for the newest New Yorkers, and they are New Yorkers. As far as I'm concerned, the minute they get off that bus, they are New Yorkers. And we need to do right by them. And it's no surprise that Alana has been front and center in leading for the newest wave of immigrants to arrive to New York City. I really cherish our friendship and really am inspired by your leadership. And thrilled to present this proclamation to you, and it is the right one. And I won't read the whole thing, but it does mention that Alana is the Vice President of Advocacy for the New York Immigration Coalition, leading all stages of its top campaigns while simultaneously managing a collaborative theory that involves community, civic, and political engagement throughout New York State. She was formerly the Director of Government Affairs for Charter Communications. Before that, she was Director at the New York City Council's Progressive Caucus, coordinating not one, but 18 council offices. That is not easy, trust me. And spearheading multiple citywide efforts to address inequalities in education, employment, housing, and criminal justice. She has been recognized for her leadership in social justice and leadership by city and state, by the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and much more. She's an alum of New York City Teaching Fellows, the Coro Fellowship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, therefore, do I, Mark Levine, commend Alana Pilar Cantillo for her contributions to the city and proclaim Thursday, September 29th, 2022, Alana Pilar Cantillo Appreciation Day in the Borough of Manhattan. All right.
All right, buenas noches. How are you? How's everyone doing? I'm so glad that I prepared to return in the flowery remarks that I just am so complimented to receive. Good evening, everyone. I'm really humbled by this recognition. I want to thank Borough President Mark Levine. I want to thank my dear friend Mariel. Otro aplauso para Mariel for putting this event together. The entire team, my peers in government from my time back in the council, Amy, Aya, Elaine, Eric, just phenomenal public servants. We're really lucky to have them in the Borough of Manhattan. I want to thank my friends for being here, for being always being my cheerleaders and supporting me. I love you very much. You know, it's a joy working with Mark and seeing his leadership throughout the years. He is steadfast, level-headed. You can rely on Mark to be a listening ear, to be an adult in the room and conduct himself with composure. To me, he's so much more than a politician. He really is a role model. I am grateful for his voice of reason that has cut through the noise of recent years. From fighting COVID misinformation to most recently with the asylum seekers, his common sense and compassion has risen above the fray, and we are all much better and safer for it. Give it up for Mark. This recognition means a lot because I love New York City. I love Manhattan. From hot pot in Chinatown to protests in Union Square and picnics in Fort Tryon, people from Manhattan are gritty. We take the buses, we take the trains, even if it requires 150 steps, like my stop on 181st right now at the moment.
We're trying to fix the elevator.
That's fine, I'm happy to get my steps in. We take pride in being a little bit inconvenienced. We know that Coronet is the best, and it's worth passing 4 or 5 pizzerias to get it. We know that biking through Central Park is not the flattest route, but it's definitely the prettiest. New York City is difficult, but it's absolutely worth it. I wouldn't live anywhere else, and I'm so grateful. Secondly, as mentioned, to be celebrated along with Hispanic Heritage Month is just the cherry on top. I love being bilingüe, I love my Latinidad, my culture, my cuisine, mis carnavales de Barranquilla. It's really a badge of honor to represent resiliency through migration and solidarity against colonialism. I've been celebrating the past 2 weeks. I really hope y'all have as well. And I just want to take this moment to wish my fellow Latinos all the success and happiness in the world because we're so beautiful and very deserving. I'll close by saying that I hope that same love of our community extends to our newest New Yorkers, as the borough president has mentioned. For the past couple months, we've seen asylum seekers arrive at our city from Venezuela, from Colombia, from Cuba, and all over Latin America. Over 15,000 people fleeing cruelty abroad, unfortunately, have also been faced with cruelty on our shores. From Republicans that are transporting them across the country to appeal to other racists, to other conservatives, to other white supremacists. So my ask of you is to be better than them, to treat these immigrants with kindness, with generosity, to treat them like family, because they really could be if circumstances were only slightly different. You know, our borough president has done a fantastic job of advocating for this community, opened his offices to donations, just like my best friend Joe has in the school where he teaches in the Bronx. You know, I really ask that you all chip in a little bit to ease the fear and the hardship that people are going through right now. So please volunteer, please donate, and be there for them the way this community has been there for me. Thank you so much.
Wow, shout out for best friend Joe. Impressive. Got written into the speech, no less. Now I would like to ask our amazing panelists to please make their way up to the front table. We are in for a treat with this wonderful discussion. How incredible is it that the City University of New York has not one, not two, but 3 academic institutes dedicated to the study of Latinos in this city. Is that amazing or what? Is there any other university in America that has this breadth of Latino academic power? It's awesome. It's really inspiring. And you are in for a treat in this discussion. I want to quickly, I guess very, very quickly ask the panelists just to introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the meat of the discussion. But I'm going to start on my right, Dr. Ramona Hernandez, who's the director of the Dominican Studies Institute. Hey, Cutie, could you please just give us a quick hello?
Buenas noches, and thank you for being here, and thank you for extending this wonderful invitation to share with my colleagues and this wonderful panel. I am Ramon Hernandez, the director of the CUNY Dominican Studies Institute, and I'm also a professor of sociology at the City College of New York.
Absolutely wonderful. Okay, Professor, round of applause for Dr. Hernandez. Dr. Lopez from the CUNY Institute for Mexican Studies, welcome. You're the new guy here.
Thank you. Yes, muchas buenas noches y muchas gracias por venir. Thank you for the invitation also. So yes, Dr. Higuera Lopez, Deputy Director of the Mexican Studies Institute at the City University of New York. We're actually housed at Lehman College, so up in the Bronx, but we serve the 25 campuses, and I'm very happy to be here.
Wonderful, all right. Dr. Yarimar Bonilla, del Centro. Ustedes son tan famosos que le pusieron el centro nada más, ¿no? Así. Ok. Cuéntanos un poco. Bienvenida.
Gracias. Yarimar Bonilla. Llevo solamente un año de directora, la primera mujer en dirigir el Centro de Estudios Puertorriqueños.
Ya era tiempo.
Sí, solamente tomó 50 años tener a mi primera mujer directora. Y muy contenta de estar aquí, muy inspirada por las que han sido galardonadas hoy. Fueron activistas como ustedes que fundaron el centro, así que me alegro mucho de estar aquí con ustedes.
Okay, so you all are first and foremost research institutions. Is that accurate? I know you have other functions and your education, sources of education as well, but we'll start with you, Dr. Bonilla. Can you talk to us about what's the cutting edge of research at El Centro?
Thank you. Well, El Centro is both a research institution and a historical archive. We're very proud and we have those two aspects. We're the only archive of the Puerto Rican diaspora in all of the United States and in all the world, really. So our friends like to say we're like the Schomburg and the Smithsonian of Puerto Rico, and very proud. But in its origin, Centro was originally a research institute, a think tank, created alongside the creation of ethnic studies programs across the CUNY system, and specifically Puerto Rican studies programs, created by activists, students, and faculty that came together to demand, and they were successful in that demand at a moment in which, it's often forgotten that Puerto Ricans were part of the civil rights struggle in this nation. And so alongside the creation of ethnic studies programs, Black studies programs, you had the creation of Puerto Rican studies programs. And El Centro was foundational in defining why were Puerto Ricans in the United States, what was the nature of our migration and of our presence here. And so some of the historical research that we have done has been about the particularity of the Puerto Rican migration to the United States. And I would say historically that has been the most important aspect of our research. And we've also contributed to the development of bilingual ed programs in the United States by giving importance to that language and understanding the importance of having that kind of educational program.
Wonderful, thank you. Dr. Lopez, what's the cutting edge of research at el Instituto Mexicano de Cuba?
Yes, so the Mexican Studies Institute basically focuses on migration. So we're studying the migration the same as Dr. Bonilla was mentioning, trying to understand the diaspora. The Mexican diaspora is one of the newest ones here in New York, one of the youngest ones also. And so on top of that, we also want to bring attention to the needs of education. So what we try to do also on top of understanding the different patterns of migration that come into New York, Also, what are the contributions that are being made by the Mexican diaspora? So we also have a a baby archives and library, also an oral history project where we document the stories of our communities. That's another thing. We also try to bring also the attention to just raising the attainment of education across the city. So we have different places in the city, 5 actually access points, where we connect the different services of the city that has to offer to our community, and also to bring Mexicans and Mexican Americans into CUNY. So basically it's education around it, but also what are the contributions that we bring as a community, as Mexicans, to New York City.
I love it. I want to pause. We'll get to you in one second, Dr. Hernandez. We've been joined by one of the rising stars in New York City politics and government, my successor in the New York City Council, Councilmember Sean Abreu. He's there in the back. We'll hear from him in a couple minutes, but you're in for a treat. Dr. Hernandez, could you please tell us about what the cutting edge at the CUNY Institute for Dominican Studies is in your research?
Thank you for the question. And actually, we follow in the footsteps of Centro de Estudio Puertorriqueño. When we were asked about, what do you want to do? When we were thinking to do the Dominican Studies Institute, the response was, we wanted to create a similar institution as Centro. So we are very grateful that they were there and that we can follow that model. The Dominican Studies Institute is the only research unit in the United States focusing on the Dominican people. There is not any other in any other place outside of the Dominican Republic. And in addition to having a unit of research that documents the experience of the Dominican people here, it also has a library, the only one, again, in the country where you are going to find specifically books on the Dominican experience, whether it is in the Dominican Republic or whether it is in some other place in the world, including the United States. And of course, we also have an archives outside of the Dominican Republic. This is the only one. And when you go there, you will be impressed with the enormous amount of documents that you are going to find. Those documents, the library and the archives complement each other. In the archives, people always ask us, why do you have two entities that sort of, speak about the Dominican people? And the reason for that is because the archives preserve the documentation, all of the paperwork that the Dominican people have created in their process of settlement in the U.S., particularly in New York City. And then the books, you write books, or scholars write books precisely based on those documents. So the two of them are essential for us. So when you ask about cutting edge research of the Dominican Studies Institute, it's everything. It's documenting the experience of the Dominican people here, from their educational process to their social economic standing as compared to other groups. So it's everything under the sun.
Wonderful. So I think all of you participated in helping to ensure turnout for the census for your respective communities. And I think all of you study demographics, or you have people on your teams who certainly study the demographics of your respective communities. So maybe Dr. Bonilla, could you tell us what is the state of demographics in the Puerto Rican community? Are the numbers changing or evolving? Is the community changing in some ways as you see it?
Yeah, so my director of public policy is here, Carlos Vargas, who has been doing a lot of work looking at redistricting and as well, and how that is being impacted by the demographic shifts of Puerto Ricans in New York. And basically, Centro has put out several reports, and we also have a redistricting dashboard where you can go and look at the changes in your community. But basically, what we have found is that Puerto Ricans and Hispanics in general are suburbanizing New York, right? They're being kind of pushed outward throughout the city due to the gentrifying pressures and also the post-pandemic pressures and impacts on housing, etc. But we still continue to be important and essential presences in these communities. Carlos is the specialist in this area. He could speak more in detail to that, but we are very committed to looking at how the redistricting that is taking place is going to impact our political power and the access that we have to elected officials and to positions in elected government as well.
Excellent. Dr. Lopez, what do you see the state of demographics in the Mexican communities of New York City?
Yeah, so for us it was very important when the campaign for the census was coming out to participate and also try to educate our community and the importance of being represented and speaking out, and also about being counted as we are. As you know, in Mexico, it's a very diverse country, and the same thing is happening for our immigrants that are coming to New York. So for example, it's not only mestizos or a mix of Spanish and indigenous in Mexico, we have indigenous people coming to New York City. So for us, it was very important to also try to help our community understand that when you have to check that box where it says other, to actually specify that you're coming from a specific indigenous community. So you're a Native American. So just add if you are actually Mixteco, Zapoteco, Nahuatl. So we did a large campaign around that. And it was interesting because a reporter actually called us to tell us that there was an increase. I don't remember the exact percentage, but it was like an increment of over 30% of people identifying as indigenous. So for us, it was very important for our community to identify and really recognize so we can actually bring the services to the community as they need. We were talking before the celebration started that for us, it's also very important to support the I'm going to say in Spanish, revitalización of indigenous languages. So to revitalize indigenous languages here in New York City. And so we also teach, as we were talking, different indigenous languages. So they're not dialects, they're languages. So what we do is any student from CUNY, from the 25 campuses, can study Mixteco or Nahuatl or Haitian Creole or also Quechua and receive foreign language credit as a language. So for us, it's very important to dignify the languages being spoken in our communities. So for us, I think we saw that increment in the census of our indigenous communities also coming in. And of course, we're growing, we're over 300,000 and growing strong.
Amazing, amazing. Dr. Hernandez, the same question for the Dominican community.
Right. When you look at the studies examining the experience of the Dominican people here before the Dominican Studies Institute was created, there was nothing utilizing data from the U.S. Census. This is one of the contributions of the Dominican Studies Institute actually to look at the Dominican people utilizing the census data. So when we came and we created the first social economic profile with very basic information about how many Dominicans we had here, whether women, men, children, their social economic standing, and all of the kinds of details that we needed to know about our people. This empowered the Dominican people because community-based organization began to utilize that data that was created at the Dominican Studies Institute for the very first time. And they put together their a proposal to seek funding for the organization based upon that data. So for us, the business of the census in completing the questionnaire is crucial because it allows us to tell the rest of society that we are here and who we are. So when we look at what's happening now as compared to 20 to 30 years ago, for instance, with the Dominican people, 25 years ago, the majority of the Dominican people overwhelmingly was immigrant. And by that, I mean people who came from the Dominican Republic. This is not the case anymore. Now we have a population that has been born and raised in this country. So it's about between 4 and 5 Dominicans, people of Dominican ancestry has already been born in the U.S. That's one particular trend that is completely new. Another thing that we are seeing is that, yes, New York City continue to be the home for the Dominican people. Still, a good 60% of the Dominican people live here. But now they're also moving out to other states. And this is to say that we have Dominicans from Alaska to Arizona, everywhere, and these are large communities that are creating, because it is not only that people leaving New York City. Yes, it is happening, gentrification, and my two colleagues have spoken about this, but it's also Dominicans that are coming from the island. But there's a third factor, and that is that Dominicans are giving birth in those places as well. So these are new things that we are seeing that we need to understand. With the
Excellent. I want to pause and acknowledge we've been joined by the superintendent here in Community School District 4, Dr. Christy de la Cruz. And we shouted her out before, but she's here now. We have the Manhattan Borough appointee to Community Education Council 2, Lupe Hernandez. Una orgullosa venezolana, no es así. Ok, vamos a hacer eso bien claro. Dr. Bonilla, given the demographic trends that you described, what is the state of political empowerment for the Puerto Rican communities of New York?
Well, I think it's a challenge, and part of the problem, or part of the challenge of Puerto Ricans in the U.S. is that we're often so focused on what's happening in Puerto Rico, the hurricanes, the austerity issues, the crisis, that sometimes we forget to think and advocate for ourselves and for our communities. And so I think we need to come together, and that's part of what at Centro we're trying to create a space in which to think about our Puerto Rican agenda here in the United States. And given all the shifts, now there's more Puerto Ricans in the U.S. than in Puerto Rico. And so we really have to come together as a community and think about what are our needs. And part of the research that we're doing now at Centro is looking at what is the socioeconomic condition of Puerto Ricans in the U.S. now. For example, we have found that Puerto Ricans have drastically lower rates of home ownership than the general population or than other Latinos. And so I think part of that is because of that constant attachment to Puerto Rico. And so we're trying to think about how can we build and empower our communities here, even as our heart remains often tied to that little piece in the Caribbean.
Amen. Same question for you, Dr. Lopez.
Well, for us, I think the experience of having our students being very active, for example, our dreamers, they were key in getting, for example, CUNY years ago used to charge out-of-state tuition for any undocumented person. So even though it had their whole life living in New York. So our students, our dreamers, actually did a lot of a movement to get to change the tuition into like in-state tuition to anybody that's undocumented. So that was the first steps of our students to become more active in politics and just in political life. One of our main focuses, or our main initiative in the Institute, is to provide scholarships and access to higher education to anybody that's coming into CUNY, specifically of Mexican descent, but anybody that wants to serve in the Mexican community or the immigrant community. So we have given over 250 scholarships for BAs and masters, and some of our cohorts of students that have graduated from the different programs have now been serving in public office. Right now we have the Commissioner for Immigrant Affairs, Manny Castro, is one of our cohorts of our graduates from our programs, and also different students that have been serving in different council members' offices, borough presidents' offices, I think in Queens and other places. So the challenge, I think it is now, as Dr. Hernandez was saying, that now we have our community is growing, so now they were born here, and also our dreamers that can actually serve and work are taking places of public service, and so now we are getting our voices heard and also being represented. But I think we need more young men and women to come into public office and also continue the fight that our former students were doing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Political challenges, right? Everything we have. Whenever you walk into a Dominican community, a space that when you walk in, you know that you are in that distinctively area populated by Dominican people. Everything that you see has been done by Dominicans, by their hands, by their sweat, by their energy, by their vision. And a question that we have with the changes, with the demographic changes, is whether that building of that community with the same commitment, with the same passion, with the same conviction that the immigrant community had, whether that will continue with the new generations who are growing up in here and who have all kinds of commitments and all kinds of convictions. So that is a challenge. Another challenge that I see, and we talk about this in the Dominican Studies Institute, and this is pertaining to our elected official. How can we help them handle two places? It is the Dominican Republic because the Dominican people continue to be connected to the Dominican people in the Dominican Republic, but it's also their commitment here, their visions here, not only to the Dominican people, but to the constituencies that also elect them, right? And when we think about that our elected officials have additional challenges as compared to others because they have to serve us as Dominican. We always tell them, we remind them, and actually, lots of the funding and lots of the things that we get in our community is precisely because those elected officials. But they are also committed to the people that elect them, that happen to be others, and then the people back home. Those are real challenges that we have to talk about and find ways of addressing.
Absolutely. You can applaud for Dr. Hernandez. I heard one timid clap there. We appreciate that. We're almost out of time, but I would like you to talk about how climate change is impacting the communities that you are studying.
Hello.
Yeah. Well, right now it's kind of an obvious question.
Yeah. I mean, for a while at Central, we've been talking about climate migrants, and how we have to think about the folks that are leaving after Hurricane Maria. Many came here and many didn't go back, and so, and it wasn't a voluntary migration, and it people weren't leaving to necessarily in search of a better life, that kind of idea of the immigrant, so that's part of it. But we also have to think about climate change in New York as well, and how our communities are sometimes living in the places that are most vulnerable, even here in New York, right? So that's something that we're thinking about. And at Centro, we just got a very big grant from the Mellon Foundation to think about the pressing issues affecting Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans. And so one of them is decolonization. That's the first. We're launching a study group on decolonization. I just came from that today. And then the second one will be post-disaster futures. So how can we not just rebuild, because we don't want to rebuild what the hurricanes toppled down under Maria and toppled down again under Fiona, but how can we reimagine for the challenges of the climate future?
Love it. Please, Dr. Lopez.
Yes, well, I think it's no secret that most of our immigrants that came at the beginning came because of drought in their hometowns. So the people that were working the fields, there was nothing to actually farm. So there was like the first wave of migration. And right now, as you know, there's also severe droughts all over. And so that continues to affect also the way that our people in Mexico are actually living. And also we can go here in the States, the same way. The people that have come to live in the States and in New York, as Dr. Bonilla was saying, they're also experiencing also migration within the states, moving and changing. I know that a large community is also now, there's an incredible relationship between the people in Sunset Park, where I actually live, and they're migrating to Pennsylvania. So do that now, also do some work in the fields. They're also upstate New York. But I think climate change is affecting, it's still affecting, and specifically in Mexico, the droughts, it's water, I think it's in contrast with Puerto Rico right now, we need the rain over there. So that's, I think, affecting and just changing the patterns of migration within Mexico and within the States.
Wonderful.
Thank you for the question. I remember ways in which Dominican people used to speak about huracanes, right? The first thing that we need to remember is that the word huracán is a Taíno word. So we have them since los tiempos inmemoriales. And Dominican used to speak about, cuando el ciclón de San Zenón, when this hurricane, because it happened sporadically, they happen but rarely, right? My father was born in one of those huracanes. But the concern now is that this is happening often and more often, and more and more and more and more and more. And in the case of the Dominican Republic, and particularly the poor communities, it's sort of like they don't have time to recuperate from what happened a year ago, because it's every year. It's not every 100 years or every 50 years how it was. It's now every year. And so sometimes when I think about this, I tell people, it's whether you agree or disagree that this is a climate change. I think we need to focus on the implications to the people. This is real. This is a very real thing. And yes, they move, as my colleagues are saying, they move from one area that is affected because there's no water, there's lack of raining, and they go to the other one, and then the other one is inundated because a lot of raining. So this is a reality. And when they are affected there, we are affected here. As I think it was you who said it so beautifully. We are all in pain. So we better, I think, move forward and join, what Dr. Bonilla is doing at Centro, and try to find solution to this heavy implication on people with this climate. With Mother Nature, right?
Disaster, I think, would be the
right.
word you're looking for. We are almost out of time, but I would love if we could do a lightning round and we could hear from each of you what's next for your institutes. Please, Dr. Bonilla.
Well, I'm very excited to announce here for the first time a big thing we're having at Centro in March is that we're doing a Bad Bunny Symposium. We're very excited.
Consígame boleto.
Yes, the biggest global star in the world sings in Spanish, is interviewed in Spanish, no habla inglés, hace lo que da la gana, is reinventing what protest music is, what political music is, and so that's a big deal. And we're also celebrating our 50th anniversary, so that's which we want to end with a conference in Hawaii. which would be to think about the Puerto Ricans across the 50 states. So which Hawaii was the first site of Puerto Rican migration to the United States. Puerto Ricans went to cut sugar in Hawaii, and it's also an important reference point for thinking about statehood and tropical statehood, thinking about sovereignty, and so those are some of the things that we're very excited about, especially Bad Bunny.
Dr. Bonilla, if you need a borough president to be a panelist at the Hawaii conference, I might be available. I just might.
And I think it was very strategic to have President Rob here,
well
so
played.
it's official. That's great. So no, for us, we're very happy that we're actually right now celebrating our 10th anniversary. We're not 50 yet, so we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. So we're very happy. And we have different projects, so we're continuing to consolidate different initiatives. We have 7 initiatives, so please look us up on social media at CUNY MSI, Mexican Studies Institute, and we have different events. The next week, actually, we have one, is we founded the International Book Fair in Spanish, La Feria Internacional del Libro de la Ciudad de Nueva York. So it's the New York City International Book Fair, where we celebrate the authors that are actually publishing in Spanish. So we have over 90 authors coming. So we have 2 different places where we're going to have this event. Is starting October 6th. So it's 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. We're starting at Columbia University and the Casa Hispanica, and then we're going to move to NYU, also to King Juan Carlos I. That's going to be Saturday and Sunday. So please come, follow us, and also for that, the International Book Fair has a special social media. So it's FIL NYC. So please follow us. It's a great program, and just continue to serve our community. I think we're very excited. Also, we're crossing our fingers to get some grant money to continue to promote education, higher education, to provide scholarships for associates, bachelors, masters, and PhDs. So we're, of keeping our fingers crossed.
Right.
Well, as my colleagues, we are also getting ready to celebrate the Dominican Studies Institute 30th anniversary in a couple of years. So we began to plan already. But and we will of course continue with the research that we have in El Caldero, como dicen. Pero I think it's in 2 weeks that we will be, for the very first time, a program from the Dominican Republic. It's a radio program that is called El Gobierno de la Mañana, and it has millions of people that listen to this program. It begins at 6 o'clock in the morning and ends at 11 o'clock in the morning. They will be coming to City College, and we will be conducting a radio program on the 13th for for all of the millions of people that hear this program. It's called the Gobierno de la Mañana, and it's a very critical program of issues that are pertinent to Dominicans and Dominican society. So I will invite all of you to listen to that program. So that's the most immediate program that we have coming next week, I think.
Wonderful. I mean, it's hard to compete with Bad Bunny, but all of you have amazing programs ahead. What a wonderful conversation. Señores, un aplauso para los tres. Dr. Bonilla, Lopez, Hernandez, thank you so much. And no se me vayan. I have a surprise. All of you are coming up on anniversaries, but only one of you is now celebrating your 10-year anniversary. So I am thrilled to present a proclamation to you, Dr. Lopez. Oh, really? Okay.
The staff, the great work of the staff of the Institute is here, so please staff join us for the picture, the official picture.
President Raab. Gosh, I love it. Dr. Raab, President Raab. President Raab.
Yes.
Okay.
They're coming. We have
Oh, this is great. Very. Wow. Seguro que si el consulado quiere participar, estamos bien. Sí, lo vemos todos.
one more. Thank you so much.
Que viva Mexico. I would like to ask the amazing Councilmember Sean Abreu if he would come on up and say a couple of words. Come on up, Sean.
Good evening, everyone. I'll keep it brief. It's so nice to be here in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, particularly with our Borough President, Mark Levine. Mark Levine has been a very strong partner of the Hispanic community for many years. He's shown that not only in supporting my candidacy as a successor in the City Council, but through everything that he does, truly. I see Doctora Ramona Hernandez. I've known the doctor since I've been at Columbia University. I'm not sure if you remember that. But I've known you there for so many years, and it's so nice to see you truly living your essence, fighting a good fight, learning about our history, documenting our lives. And to everyone here today, the panelists and everyone here attending here tonight, Hispanic Heritage Month is so important because we're celebrating who we are as a people, our music, our food, our culture, and really who we are. And we're here in strong numbers. We'll continue to be here in strong numbers. My heart goes out to everyone affected by the hurricane. I'm sure there's a lot of us here who are impacted by the hurricane in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Even Hurricane Ian, I heard, is impacting folks in Cuba as well. And so it's something to keep in mind, and my thoughts are with you. But again, I want to give it up to our magnificent Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine. You have been such a real partner of the Hispanic community. And let's give it up for Mark. For
Did you know that we have some amazing food for you? And I want to thank the incredible groups that made this possible. Salento Colombian Cafe and Restaurant, Mama Juana Cafe and Bocadillos, El Jefe, New York State Restaurant Association. I also want to thank Jorge Jimenez for translating tonight. La traducción, gracias. All our volunteers. This was an incredible, incredible discussion. And finally, I want to say that we have been collecting donations for the migrant families. The contributions have been overwhelming. It's really moving. But the need is just massive. And so if you are able to contribute, we're still collecting at both of our offices. We're collecting clothes and toiletries and other basic necessities at our Uptown office, which is 431 West 125th Street, and also at our downtown office at 1 Center Street, every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So if you are able to contribute these goods, please come on by. And with that, thank you. Muchísimas gracias. Que vivan los hispanos en Nueva York. Thank you.